goes back to the very interesting history of Russia. In the early modern period, where feudalism was being dismantled in Western Europe and serfs were being liberated to leave the overlords and to go in the cities with very, very rapid urbanization, this is the time when Russia, which of course had been under the Mongol yoke for at least 2 centuries, which was a very punitive imperial system, the nobility in Russia started to oppress the Russian serfs. And they couldn't escape. They were tied to the land. And some of these aristocrats had, thousands of slaves effectively. It was very punitive all the way up through to the 19th century. And then, of course, you had the Bolsheviks, which were like repressive aristocracy wearing the clothing of Marxist ideology. And then after the end of communism, the collapse of the Soviet Empire, you have the rise of Putin and the kleptocrats, which is really Ivan the Terrible in the new guise. When you have a millennia of a group of people who have been oppressed and punished, you end up with what I think is a collective form of Stockholm syndrome, where in order to survive, the population, like victims of kidnapping, start to identify with their oppressors. It's the only way to survive. And this is why Russia is so high on what's called the Hofstede Power Index, where they're very deferential to authority. This is what's so tragic for me about Russia today, is that many people think they demonstrate patriotism by identifying with Putin when he is the person who is effectively impoverishing and terrorizing them. And I think it is a total disaster for academics like Mearsheimer to buy this risible argument that Putin's worried about a democracy in Ukraine because he's worried about the Russian national interest. He doesn't give a stuff about the Russian national interest.